The Dark Room with your hosts, Paul Salvatori and Jordan Randall. So today we're talking with Ali B, who sells her panties online, real panties, to real men and some women. So just tell me a little bit, I mean, we discussed a little over Skype text how you got in and things like that. Maybe you could just tell us about the beginnings of what you're doing now and what exactly that is for people who don't know.
Well, to be honest, there's been quite a few blogs about ways of making extra money, particularly at home. And I just did a bit of research and realised how much of a market there was out there for it. And it's something that I can do with very little work and expense.
So what exactly is a service called?
Sell your panties.
Okay. And
that's a specific site I use.
Right.
And they do probably exactly what the name sounds like.
Pretty much, yeah. It's for some reason surprisingly hard to find if you just Google. It's not one of the first results that pops up, which, considering the name, is a bit odd. But there are lots of other sites. It's just this one in particular is free.
Right. So, I mean, could you bring us through like a typical transaction or encounter that you would have with a client or a buyer?
There is no such thing as typical, to be honest.
Okay.
I've had people just send me a message asking for a particular colour and style.
Right.
I've had people who want me to wear things for the quite long periods of time that, you know, hygiene would normally recommend. And I've had some downright odd requests.
What are some of those odd requests, if you don't mind sharing?
No, let me just shut the door. Well, I've had, I believe he was Japanese. He wanted me to fold up a pair of tights and put them up my back end and wear them for a week. I'm not even sure how that's physically possible, so unsurprisingly, I didn't take him up on that offer.
Was he offering a substantial amount for something like this daring task?
I don't know if he wants to find anyone who'd do it for it. The amount you get really depends on what you're willing to do and how much you're willing to negotiate with people.
So is that how it generally works? Is you get to sort of set the price, or is that regulated by the website?
No, you set your own price, because it all depends what they want, really. I mean, if they want things that have been worn for several days and played in for several days, for instance, that obviously means you can't be wearing a pair for anyone else. So it all comes down to effectively how much time and effort is required in what they want.
I mean,
but I haven't actually washed any underwear for several weeks now. It all gets sold, including the, you know, sort of, some people want it to be worn for a week. Obviously, you've got to keep, let's say, an eye on your hygiene and make sure you're not having any negative effects.
right.
When you're selling your panties, like, does it factor in the amount that you paid for the pant? Like, if you buy, you know, like something from like Walmart or some store versus like buying lingerie from Victoria's Secret, does that also impact the selling price?
Yeah, I mean, if they want something specific, they can request a brand or a particular fabric or style or something. But to be perfectly honest, I've been going to Walmart, which is Asda here, Tesco's, any of those sort of places where you can get nice quality for cheap, and I've been picking them up in the sales in bulk. I don't think I've ever bought as many panties as I have the last month. I tend to go to different shops and go to different post offices because I'm starting to worry they're going to think I'm a bit odd.
That's right.
But,
why are you buying so many panties?
Yes, I think there's something wrong with me. And obviously the post office can't knowingly post abroad, things like that. So I have to, you know, say toys and small items of clothing for a Welsh family that are elsewhere, etc.
Right. So, Ali, what do you think is the reason that these men want the panties?
Don't know. And I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I mean, sexuality is a continuum. There's no such thing as normal.
Right.
And, I'm making someone happy at the end of the day. I mean, I've gotten quite friendly with some of the people. I hear from a lad from Edinburgh most days. He's a repeat customer. Calls me princess. Which is always nice, especially when he's single. Getting a bit of love. But I have promised him a birthday present later this month, so I'm going to have a think about what to send him. But I do get sent some pictures of them enjoying the products. Some people don't like to get that sort of feedback, but I find the people who want to show me are the type of people who will be repeat customers. So at the end of the day, if they're, giving me $50+ for a pair of pants and they want to send me a picture, then good luck to them.
Right. I mean, do you personally...
I will happily look at it.
Right. I mean, so you personally, you interpret that as a token of appreciation or as harassment?
Not necessarily appreciation perhaps for me, but for the product and the service. So, it's all part of it, the same as being friendly to them and chatty and calling them sweetie and things like that. They're not just paying for the scrap of clothing, they're paying for some attention from me.
Right.
What would some of these photos depict? Like, they're not wearing the panties, right? They're just holding them, or?
I have had some with them wearing them. I've had some with them wrapped around various body parts.
Okay.
I've just had the body parts. To be honest, internet dating has desensitized me a lot to the type of pictures you get sent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've had weirder requests from people on Plenty of Fish than I have from this site. So it just goes to show, really. It's been very eye-opening. My background's psychology, so there's definitely a bit of research that could be done here. Ethically is always a bit of a worry, but that's not my current area, so I don't have to worry about that. But, you learn a lot about people, and that's no bad thing, and I'm earning a little bit of extra money on the side.
Right. So, I mean, in our text exchanges, you mentioned something about confidence. How has your life changed since you started selling panties, other than, of course, the economics?
In reality, I mean, I had no trouble getting responses on things on the dating websites and, compliments from that side. But obviously, it's more of an even interaction, and people don't just, write to you and tell you how gorgeous you are. I mean, if you were honestly interested in dating somebody like that, you'd start to think it's a bit weird after a few messages. Nobody, as much as everyone wants to be adored, you don't, an actual healthy relationship. But, I get a lot of compliments, and I've joined Purple Port this week, and I've got several paid and unpaid photo shoots now booked in for burlesque pinup underwear. And so the fact that I'm bigger than I was, and my ex, told me I'd let myself go and all of this sort of thing, clearly there are plenty of people out there who still find my body type attractive.
Absolutely.
So,
always going to be something out there for everyone.
Well, I like to think that I'm a bit more mainstream.
Well, yeah,
as opposed to niche, but but if they want to pay me for a pair of panties, then good luck to them.
So
they're happy with the service.
So, Allie, I'm not sure if you mentioned, could you remind me, how long have you been doing this for?
How long what, sorry?
How long have you been doing this for?
Not even that long, about 6-8 weeks, something like that.
Okay, so, I mean, from your experience so far, what would you tell other women who are considering doing this?
You obviously have to be very open-minded, and you have to be able to discuss all things. I've been told very personal things by some of the people, but I make a point of being approachable, and I've always, always ended up talking to people more than I probably should. I'm the type of person who'll end up chatting to people on the bus, etc., So, you have to be aware that it's not just a transaction for, as I said, the item of clothing. There is, financially it's not going to be, a $5 pair of panties and you sell it for 50. You have to provide something else as well, and it's not just the fact that you've been wearing them for a couple of hours.
Right.
It's the flirting, it's them feeling wanted, and there's a bit of an agony on element to it in that sense.
I mean, does it come to the point where these men are disclosing like secrets about themselves, like their personal lives? Are they married?
I've had somebody who was married and wanted to have an online girlfriend.
Okay.
That I didn't enjoy quite as much, because it was, considering, it was a small sort of weekly payment, and I think it only went on for 2 weeks in the end, because his wife found out. But for it, he wanted far more of my attention, and it was actually starting to get in the way of my work. So I was quite glad when it sort of came to an ending from his perspective. But, it's as long as you're capable of ignoring an email, you can do it in your own time. But I work from home, so I generally do respond straight away to people. It's just a case of sometimes I have to log off and focus on what I'm supposed to be doing instead.
Right. Now, this might sound like a bit of a strange question, but I have to ask, because what you're giving is essentially one of a kind, right? Because you are you, and the panties are, they're buyable, but you wearing the panties and so forth, that brings that one of a kind element. So do you feel in any way that you're an artist?
No, I wouldn't say so at all. As I say, I'm a background in psychology and counselling and all of that sort of thing. I think of it as a service as opposed to artistic expression, because it's really nothing to do with me. It's not my wants, thoughts, feelings. It's theirs. So it's not me producing something.
Right.
It's a support. A psychological crutch sort of thing.
Right. Now, do you find that most of the buyers are satisfied? Do they get what they are expecting? Because it's not there, it's not physical until it actually gets to them. So much of it's maybe in their mind. It's a fantasy.
I've not had any complaints, and I've had some customers are established. I have multiple collections, and I've had some first-time buyers. I mean, I have had one person who went a bit odd on me. Not anything weird, but when after, a few messages had been exchanged, I sort of prompted about possibly buying something. I had a bit of a bitchy response about, it's all about the money, quite a salesperson, aren't you? And I said, well, you didn't find me on a dating site. This is a transaction, it's supposed to be. So yes, I'm happy to talk to you and all of that sort of thing, but there has to be an element, because if I was looking for a friend, it wouldn't be via that site.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, it's a bit of a thrill sometimes to talk about some of the stuff, but I could do it with people who I might actually date or might end up, going out with. Why would I do it with a completely random person from some other part of the world? And, I'm being paid to have those sort of conversations with other people effectively. So I couldn't understand why he'd gone quite so upset and offended by the bringing money into the discussion. Because, as I say, the site is buyers and sellers.
Right.
So you do have to, take some precautions, and you do have to have a bit of a tough shell sometimes. I've had responses where it's, thanks, but no thanks, you're not my type. Well, they might well not be my type, but it's a transaction at the end of the day, and it's a buyer's market.
Right. So, is it always that the customer approaches you, or do you approach, the community itself? How does that work?
Specifically with the site, I tend to make a lot of sort of instigate the messages when it shows you who's online at the moment. And every time I see a name I don't recognise, or somebody who hasn't been online for a while, I'll send them a message saying, you know, he's still looking for that perfect kitty, you know, whoever bought off a British girl, that sort of thing. And I've had a lot of sales that way. At the end of the day, there's a lot of sellers on there. So, you know, it's up to you to drum up business effectively.
Do you ever have any communication with other sellers?
I've asked some advice for another British girl, and when I first set up, and I exchanged a few messages with her. On the site, there's also a forum, and it's divided into sections. So there's the I'm offering new person after this sort of thing, but there's also what they call a kitties corner, where only the sellers can have conversations. So if there's somebody that's a time waster or just being a bit rude, they can put it on there, they can ask advice. I suppose, you know, we are a sort of community in the fact that we don't want to keep lowering the prices to compete to the point where it's not worth doing. So, you know, we do have to sort of, while we're competition, you know, it's not a one-time only purchase. So the fact that, you know, you're advising someone else on how best to do it doesn't really negatively impact on your sales. And, you know, you don't want other people putting themselves at risk by putting their phone numbers on the site, etc., you know. So there is a little bit of a community there, but nothing huge, to be honest. I mean, some people don't log in at all. Some people are there constantly. And I imagine there are some people who've never sold an item and others that are hugely popular. You know, you get out what you put in. Say, you know, I make a lot of the first contacts, but it's paying off. If I was to sit back, especially when I log on, sometimes I'm not always on the front, then, you know, how many bloody pictures and profiles are they going to look through before they decide to buy? So it's about making, you know, saying, hello, I'm here, you know, buy from me. Because, you know, I'm so fabulous.
All right.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, do you ever get requests from women, or is it exclusively men?
I had one request from a woman. She didn't want panties, but she wanted a femdom.
Okay.
We did start email discussions because I'd never done anything like that and thought it'd be quite fun. And she offered to pay a good rate, but she then disappeared. So I'm not sure whether she got found out by her parents or something. You know, you know, deals fall through with absolutely anything, and especially with something like this. You know, people do have to keep it quiet from family members. You know, I've sold a pair of dirty tights to a relatively young lad, and he sent me a sort of fake letter addressed to a previous occupier to post in case his mum looked at it. You know, she might go, well, why are you getting that? But it was addressed to the previous occupier, and he had me put them back in the packet. And so it was, you know, congratulations, you got a free sample, sort of thing. So, you know, people tend to be surprisingly ingenious. Quite cute sometimes, especially with the young lads.
While we're on this topic of people hiding it from, you know, or maybe not feeling so secure about letting their close friends or family know about this, how does that relate to you? Are your friends or family privy to what's going on in your life?
A couple of my mates know. My parents don't. Hence the quiet tone and shutting the door. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not putting myself in any risk. It's not like, you know, if you watch some of the early episodes of CSI, it's not like my DNA is going to turn up in any crime scenes or anything. So as long as they don't get my address, it all goes through payment sites. I set up an email account just for this. You know, what harm can I come to, really, apart from possibly poorly managed? It costs me money rather than making me money. So, I mean, I've always been quite an open person and not actual person, so why not make a bit of money? And as I say, I'm single, so if I'm doing stuff by myself anyway, I might as well do it in their panties and get paid for it.
If you weren't single, would you tell your partner about this?
I think it all depends whether it's, starting a new relationship. I wouldn't want to be with somebody who's really judgmental about this sort of stuff, but it wouldn't be something I'd bring up on the first date.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be something that, once I've got my PhD, I'd continue probably. I'm sponsored by a charity, so I only get a limited monthly amount, and I would like to move back out from my parents, etc. So, it's just a convenient way at the moment of making money. If I didn't need the money, I wouldn't do it. Simply because it does require time and effort, and you can't just go, no, I've had a crappy day, sod off. I had a bump in the car last week, and I got to moan to a fair few people when they were asking, can you send me this or whatever. I said, well, I've bumped the car, I can't post today. And have a nice little moaning bitch. And, anybody who did go, oh, well, I'm not going to order from you again, well, perhaps I don't want to talk to you again, But, of course, I have the, there's not debt collectors at the door or anything, so I do have the luxury of going, no, I don't want to ship a pair of tights out else. I'll let that one go, So, I wouldn't tell my ex when we were married about it, good God, no, but I wouldn't do it then. I didn't need the money, and to be honest, it's not so much about the panties, it's the interaction with the people, that there is emotionally cheating, not for me in this case, but somebody, finding those sort of messages on your phone, could easily lead to the wrong conclusion that you are having an affair, an emotional affair, looking for someone you, whatever, because those sort of conversations really should be within your relationship, if you're in a relationship, from my perspective. I can't judge them. I don't know what their circumstances are. As long as they're not hurting anybody.
Are there ever cases where you feel you're actually helping the relationship?
Well, I've had some wedgie requests before, and the lad couldn't use PayPal because he had a shared PayPal account and didn't want to have to explain it.
Right.
And he said, well, my girlfriend just doesn't get why I like, cracks and wedgies, and, fair enough. He could go out and go looking for a new girlfriend who did understand. Or he could send me the odd message and get the odd picture and pair of panties from me. So realistically, he's not annoying her or freaking her out or anything, depending on, how badly she reacted. But it's not cheating, he could explain it away quite easily, and if he was that worried about losing her, thought he'd lose her, he wouldn't do it, As possibly cold as that sounds, if something could end your relationship, why would you do it? And if, everything was fine and dandy and all hunky-dory, I know some sellers have wives and girlfriends who are quite open to stuff like this. I know somebody who's him and his new wife swing and all that sort of thing. So, it's whatever floats your boat, and it's their relationship at the end of the day, as long as I don't end up with messages from distraught wives and girlfriends, which, at the end of the day, I could just block the email anyway. So it's not my fault. It's not a relationship. It's not me going in and, accosting their other half and demanding their time and attention. It's a service that they've obviously made some approach into without any contact from me, otherwise it wouldn't be on the site.
Do you ever get I know you made mention briefly earlier of getting messages from people that are just messing around or whatever. The word the internet has dubbed these people trolls. Do you get a lot of that?
No, it's not. There's no trolling from my experience anyway, but what there is people trying to get something for free. So I had what turned out to be a young lad. That's actually why I got in touch with Paul, was because of this guy wanting to, have a warning or something sent to him. But, it was, oh, why should I buy from you? Send me a video, all of this sort of stuff. And, there was never any money coming. So he just wanted the free sort of hints at what was available, etc. So, you get time wasters, but I've never had anything which has, been personal or, criticising me for doing this. Because at the end of the day, I'm doing a PhD in health. So, I'm not an evil person by any stretch of the means. I'm just a student who needs a bit more money, that's all. I'm saying not hurting anyone.
Mm-hmm. So, Ali, how do you handle, if it ever happens, people who, I guess they might fall in love with you or something like that, and they want to, move things offline. They want to meet you, stalkers, what have you. How do you handle those sorts of situations?
I've had a couple of people who say, oh, when you're in the area, we'll have to go out and all the things I do to you and all of that sort of thing. And I always say, if I do ever bump into you in the city, I don't promise. Even going on a date, I don't promise anyone's going to get anything from me. Right. So I make it clear that they can't expect that type of treatment. And to be honest, I'm not on one of the main transport links here in South Wales. Mm-hmm. They don't know specifically where I am. So, a bit of polite topic changes and, the odd jokey message. And at the end of the day, we're talking about people who perhaps aren't the most confident anyway, so aren't going to put themselves out there for that sort of rejection. Mm-hmm. And steps are taken to protect against stalkers and stuff like that. As I said, not putting your real number, not putting your location, turning off the coordinates on your phone when you take pictures and stuff like that. There's plenty of things you can do to help protect yourself. But, you do have to have some skills in being a good judge of character and reading between the lines in messages. And, if you know that it's getting a bit, they're seeing it as an online relationship, which could go somewhere as opposed to a service, you can dial it back. Right. It's about, comfortably taking a step back. Say you're going away for a couple of days or that you're busy or whatever, and sort of break the dependency. But I can't say I've ever had to be honest. Mm-hmm. But I say I'm relatively new to this.
Right. Just curious, what is generally the moral climate, if you will, of where you are in Wales? People's attitudes, I guess specifically towards kink, this kind of sexuality, yeah.
There are plenty of shops in the town centre which cater.
Okay.
It's like anywhere really that you have, where there's a lot of older population and families, you wouldn't find people openly talking about it. But I've been standing in a queue in a shop and sending messages. If somebody was to look over my shoulder, they might see something that would shock them. But then I shouldn't be nosing at my phone. Right. My argument. Right. So, I don't flaunt what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, again, I'm not standing around kids throwing swear words around or discussing graphic things. So it's what I would do as a polite, functioning member of society anyway. If I was talking to my boyfriend about what I'm going to do to them when I get home, I wouldn't be having that conversation outside of school. Right. So, I don't think anyone has a right to judge me on this, and I don't think anyone would really.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm going to stick a poster in the window, mind, and say I'm doing it.
Yes.
But, it's not shameful by any stretch of the imagination. Where's the line of what's, socially acceptable and what isn't?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, in part I ask because I'm just wondering if it's, for example, a very conservative, restrictive context, whether that kind of creates, or if it's ever created some sort of hesitancy in your mind to do something like this, or whether you just totally disregarded that altogether.
I'd say somewhere in the middle, to be honest. I mean, I'm very much a daddy's girl and close to my parents, and the idea of my dad finding out about this is not one that makes me happy. But at the same time, I'm not selling myself. I'm not, I'm not doing anything illegal. It's not even, I'd say, immoral. So what's the problem? But I mean, my dad wouldn't like me to be working nights in Tesco's to try and make ends meet either, so it's just the fact that there is this sexual element is what makes it different from any other job, really. Right. But I mean, you could say the same about a lot of different careers, really. There's a fair few that are borderline into, I don't see myself as a sex worker or anything by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, and just dialing it back a bit. I mean, you said that there was a few younger clients, I suppose, that were requesting things of you. Is there like an age limit either on the site or with you morally that you won't cross?
18, I think, on the site, because the sellers certainly have to provide ID. So there's no underage girls on there. And if anybody wants you to dress up and look underage, etc., that's really obviously frowned upon. And, they can get thrown off the site, or girls mostly just send us messages, go, do not, pervert. But, I mean, morally, 16 is the age of consent, yeah. And I, knew what I was doing enough at 16 to know, about sexual interactions, etc., obviously. So, they have, it's not something that they'll stumble across. You have to be looking for the site to find it, and certainly to sign up to get to be interacting with me. So it's not like I'm corrupting kids or anything, It's a marketplace that's specific. It's not like eBay, where you just happen to be scrolling through the penny listings and you come across me, So there's also the actually, think about it. You do have to declare you're 18 to log on to go onto the site. So, there's warnings to stop, again, accidental stumbling across to what you could be looking for to come across cellular panties. I'd really, So, it's not really a concern, as I say, They have to have the money. If they're paying by an electronic bank account or whatever, they have to be 18 for that. And, it's about them knowing their own mind and knowing what they're paying for and being aware of, budgetary constraints and all of that stuff's their own concern. If that means they've spent their allowance for the month, well, they knew that at the time, There's no hidden costs. There's no tax added on the end, sort of thing. And they pay before they get the product. So, if they realise they can't afford anything, then that's just the end of it, So I'd say it's not really a concern.
Right. And do you ever get requests from buyers? I don't know how you would do it, like to verify that, for example, you've worn the panties for like 2 weeks. Like how do you do that if they ask?
I can do sort of updates.
Okay.
Send them a pic of myself in them, and perhaps, them going from just washed white to slightly, more used colours. But I mean, from their perspective, they don't know that I'm not just putting them on for the pictures. But, this is the type of job where repeat customers are really good things. And there is, as I say, it's a buyer's market. So if I say I'm going to do it, I do it because, it's just not worth not.
Right.
I'll say some of the more extreme ones. I've never done, say, 2 weeks. I think the longest I've done is 3 days.
Right.
And, generally we've all had to go an extra day or just rinse out in the sink when you're on holiday and you've run out of pets, for instance, so it's not the end of the world by any stretch. As far as, proving I'm real, the site runs an option called being a checked kitty. And that means they've seen my ID, and I've posted a picture of myself with my ID. I know of other sites that make you write your username on a bit of paper, and take pictures. But I mean, if they want to know it's with my bum or whatever, then I can say things like, well, tell me what hand symbol to make, whether it's live long and prosper or the OK symbol, and I'll do that within the picture and send that to them.
Okay.
With technology these days, there's always some way, shape or form to do it.
Is the site kind of like other online marketplaces like Amazon, where customers will leave like review or feedback?
You can leave appreciation, though I have to say, for some reason on the site, it's not really used. I mean, I've got none. I've left one for someone, and I've only come across somebody who's got 2 thumbs up. So I don't think it. I mean, it's such a personal thing. I think it's not like buying something off eBay and commenting on the quality of the wrapping and the promptness of delivery, etc. I mean, obviously those things are factors, but who you like as a seller is, such a personal thing. I really don't think there's much of a market for that sort of thing, to be honest.
I guess the feedback would be more like on a sort of one-on-one, where they're telling you, not putting it on display for the.
Yeah, I mean,
site,
I always ask them to confirm delivery, and were they happy, etc. Because as I say, it's the reorders are what is going to stop them from going on to the next seller. Really, it's you tend to have 2 types of people. There are either people who want volume with lots of different girls, and there are people who just want fresher items, because of course whatever scent you've left does dissipate, particularly if they wear them themselves. So whether it's they just want to top up effectively, or whether they want something a bit more, it's so again, it completely comes down to this. Sorry, one sec. Yeah. I've completely lost my train of thought. No 2 interactions have been the same.
For sure.
So, it's interesting if you're quite an open person. I mean, I say I work from home. I'm single at the moment. My mates are all in relationships. So, I was on dating sites, even though I don't really. No. Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, so let me shut the door. Yeah, so again, I've completely lost my thought.
It sounds like it's an excellent way to just have a lot of great stories to tell people. So I always find when I'm in a weird profession myself, that I mean, not necessarily weird per se, but out of the usual, then you get to see these new walks of life, and it's just as an open-minded person, your mind is constantly being opened more and more by all these new things that you maybe never even thought about.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't find skid marks appealing, and I've had requests for them and requests to make sure I don't leave them, to which my response is, I was toilet trained a long time ago. You don't have to worry about it unless you want it. It's I could be chatting to people on dating sites. I could be doing anything like that, because I could go, when my parents are away, for instance, I could go whole days without actually saying anything to another person. Or I can chat away to these random people and make a bit of money out of it.
Why not?
I mean, Ali, do you ever get like requests beyond the panties themselves? Like, do you have people asking you, I would like you to wear them, I don't know, for whatever reason, like from the moment you wake up, and then I'd like you to wear them on the beach, something like that. Just they'd like to have that extra, whatever you would call it, just because they have a certain fetish for that environment or that time of day.
I can't say
Yeah.
I have. No, I mean, that doesn't mean it's not out there. It's just not
Right.
in my experience.
It's just okay. And I guess my final question is, I mean, do you, this is strictly a business for you. You would appreciate someone eventually in your life who had this kind of kink or not?
I don't think I'd like to come home and catch them wearing mine. Simply because they might stretch it. You know, the last thing you want is your nice panties going with these.
Yes.
And coming back in completely wrong shape, you know. But I mean, as long as they were safe and it wasn't to say anything that could be construed as cheating or whatever, then I don't see the problem.
Yes.
You know, it's a bit like how some people like anal and others don't. You know, as long as you're relatively aware of how the other person feels and you behave in a way that's mutually agreeable to both of you.
Yes.
I don't see it makes much of a difference, really. Because when you think about it, it's just a step up from that, or swinging, or, you know, it's... Any relationship's give and take and requires honesty. I mean, I can't say I'm exactly an expert at it, hence being single. You know, that I certainly wouldn't judge. And I myself wouldn't want to be with anyone who knew about this and judged me.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So, Jordan,
Are there any guys that are selling their undergarments on the website, or is it strictly they are? Yeah, so that's a thing.
I contacted one thinking he was a buyer, and I don't know if he's any good, but he didn't exactly sell the products to me. But he just messaged me going, "I've got 3 pairs ready to go if you want them."
Wow.
No, thanks.
So do you know if there's any like difference in the marketability for that? Do you find would you know if the guys
I came across one site doing my sort of background research, which was predominantly male stuff, and from the items that were on there, there's definitely a market for it. You know, worn underwear, socks, etc. Sweaty gym clothes.
Wow. Yeah, the reason I ask is because I'm just thinking that I could probably make a little bit of money on the side myself. You know?
Google.
I'm gonna be looking into this.
Yes.
I must say I do have quite a lot of unwashed undergarments that are just sitting around.
Well, like I said, it's definitely cut back on my washing.
There you go.
Nothing else, you know. Right, I'm gonna have to go then. Thanks, guys. Bye.
My God. So, where to begin with that one? That was fascinating. You know what, though? Like, I'm really thinking that I should sell my underwear online because, like, I've got just so much dirty underwear, and why not make a profit?
Because they have to be, right?
Yeah.
Because on the website, they have to be used. You can't just buy them, you know, keep them in your apartment for whatever. And so, but it's interesting, too, that whoever's using the site, they're basing, like, the probability that they're going to get the panties they want on how these people look in the face. You know, that's like, there's no kind of sample test or whatever. Like, how else can you test that product? You know, you can't consume it digitally. You can't go out to a department store in your local city, or in your locale, and just, you know, get a rough sense of what someone's panties would be like who look like this.
It's such a strange connection.
Yeah, because that's primarily how they advertise on the site. Is their profiles is their face. It's not like
you can smell through the computer.
Yeah, and they have pictures of their panties, but they don't take the foreground, right? They're like they're on them, and you don't see like how they've been used or like the process of getting them used. So it's interesting because that's the product in the end that they really want. So it's that kind of association that's pretty interesting to me. I mean,
for sure,
they could be getting, I mean, and there's a whole question of ethics. I mean, who's to say that they're really in the end getting the panties from that person?
They could be completely made up. Yeah.
Exactly.
They could like find them in a garbage dump or something like that.
That's right.
They just mail
That's
them
right.
out.
So there's that whole question of ethics. Like, I mean, even if you can't get it to someone, the panties, you can get the panties to someone who's ordered them, and they're not yours, and you can get away with that legally. Is it right?
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But it's a lucrative money-making opportunity, and I think that,
right,
if not, you know, everyone, a lot of people should
Right.
look into this, because, you know, what do you do with your old disgusting underwear when it's all used up and,
Yeah.
and smelly?
No,
You
that's
throw it
right.
away.
I guess what better way
You're
to
throwing
put it?
away free money.
Well, yeah, no, you need. It's interesting too, the overlap with her PhD being in psychology. She's like a master, I feel, and knowing how to appeal to like people's psychology, like how exact. It's interesting.
PhD in panties.
Yeah, that's like
What the
that.
P stands for.
That's right.
Panties.
That's right. That's exactly the connection.
But it was fascinating talking to her. You know, I mean, I really, all jokes aside, I think it's she's a pretty smart person,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because we actually we were Skyping her, so our listeners couldn't see,
Right.
but she was actually living with her parents,
Right.
And it was actually kind of
Yeah.
interesting to see that she, had to sort of dodge her parents like more than once to continue this conversation that's not of a normal per se nature.
That's right. Yeah, because I don't. No, I wouldn't necessarily categorize people who sell their panties as sex workers, but like I have to admit, in my imagination, when I thought about what it'd be like for someone doing that, especially if they're Skyping online, things like that, that they would have maybe a similar setup as a sex worker in the digital world. So they would have their own secret place, apartment, unencumbered by their parents because, of the nature of like the product that they're selling. Yeah, so to have that interrupted.
It's a little strange.
Yeah.
But still very cool.
Yeah.
And I sincerely wish Allie B all the best
Right.
in her
Yeah,
panty selling
likewise.
career.
Yeah, likewise for sure. You're not going to want to miss the next episode of The Dark Room. We're interviewing Little Bear, a self-proclaimed bearded woman.
Until then.
This is The Dark Room.